Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to an updated look at the college football AP poll hot off the presses for this is going into week number 3, post week 2. We've got some teams entering the top 25, some teams exiting, few big upsets. So let's get into it. You've got Ohio State sitting at number 1 overall. They did defeat Grambling. They did receive 57 first place votes, so not completely unanimous, but near unanimous. The Buckeyes will face Ohio University. Ohio is thought to be the best team in the MAC, but obviously Ohio State's going to be major favorites. And then they do have an interesting, I believe it's week 5 game on the road at Washington, who looks good early in the season, but Ohio State stays number 1. Moving on to number 2, it is Penn State. Penn State, a little bit of a disappointing performance against Florida International. They were around 42.5-point favorites. They did not cover the spread. They did not cover the spread in week 1 either. A little bit concerning offensive, maybe lack of receiving weapons with Tyler Warren off to the NFL. They do have a stable of good running backs, but we'll see with Penn State. They've got the huge game, the whiteout against Oregon, who, by the way, Oregon's looked phenomenal early in the season, but Penn State does remain number 2. You have LSU at number 3, a disappointing performance against Louisiana Tech, and also you had the LSU win in week 1 against Clemson get devalued a little bit because of Clemson's performance against Troy. So some interesting early season dynamics working when it comes to LSU. They're still at number 3. They received 2 first place votes. They will be hosting Florida. So it'll be interesting. Florida now, I believe they're unranked after their loss to South Florida. But would a win over Florida for LSU catapult them at number 1? Probably not now that Florida lost to South Florida, but we'll have to see. Either way, LSU comes in at number 3. They were around 35, 36-point favorites. They only won that game by 16. You've got Oregon up 2 spots. They annihilated Oklahoma State. Oregon now, according to the analytics, because of the thorough domination, not just in terms of points, but also yardage, they are the number 1 team by 2 points in ESPN FPI. They won 69-3. They had 69 points in the first 3 quarters. They destroyed Montana State, who's a really good FCS team. Montana State is better than many FBS teams, especially the group of 5 teams. So those are 2 good wins for Oregon. They're not great opponents, but you take look at Dante Moore. Early this season, it's been impressive. So Oregon sitting at number 4. They face Northwestern this week in a random noon start, so that'll be an interesting travel schedule for them, but they're up 2 spots, and yeah, they've been a team that's been overlooked because of the young QB losing a lot of players from last year, but nowadays with the transfer portal, they're easily able to reload, and they did just that. You've got Miami not moving down or up. They stay the same at number 5. They beat Bethune-Cookman 45-3, very easy win. They didn't cover the 52 or 53 point spread. It doesn't really matter, though. Georgia dropping down 2 spots. Yeah, I would have to agree with this. I mean, I still think Georgia is probably a top 5 team. The SEC is really a mosh pit of really good but not great teams this year. The game against Austin Peay, winning by 22 points against an FCS team, only averaging 4.5 yards per carry. There's some concerns. Now, you could blame the weather delay. You could say, well, it's an extra dynamic. The players, they're not loose, they're cold when they come back out onto the field. It's going to be a porous environment against a bad FCS team. The crowd's not going to be in it. But still, a 22-point victory against an FCS team where you struggled to run the ball, that's a concern for Georgia. And they're going to get into their hard schedule here now starting this week. So Georgia, 2 easy games. You beat Marshall, you beat Austin Peay, but not a great performance in this one. You've got Texas remaining at 7. They lose to Ohio State in week 1. They end up beating San Jose State. Arch Manning looked fine. They ended up not covering the 35.5-point spread, but Texas kind of sleptwalked in the second half. It was a very easy win. We'll see with Texas. I think Texas is susceptible. They're susceptible to some losses. I think Oklahoma could beat them. You do have Notre Dame moving up 1 spot to number 8. So Notre Dame had a week 2 bye week. So every team, because of the way the schedules work now with the expanded playoff, they get 2 bye weeks. It used to happen like once every 6 years. Now every year, I believe teams are going to be getting 2 bye weeks. So Notre Dame had a very early bye week. They're 0-1. They lost that week 1 game on the road at Miami, who right now is the number 5 team in college football. And we'll have to see with Notre Dame. Now they've got Texas A&M at home. This is a great spot for Notre Dame. At home against A&M, a team that is within the top 20. And so if they lose that game, that's going to be it for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to have to, I think, go 11-1. If they go 10-2, it's going to be very hard for them to make the playoff because of the fact that they're an independent. They don't get their conference championship. And also, I'll have to see if they face USC this year, but normally they always face USC. The schedule outside of this next game against A&M, it is relatively easy. And so it's like, where are the big wins going to come if they start off 0-2, even if they finish 10-2? So we'll have to see. Illinois at number 9, they beat Duke 45-19. That game was a lot closer than the score indicates. Duke outgained Illinois. I'm not a buyer of Illinois. Illinois is Indiana 2.0. This is not a talented team. This is not a team that should be in the top 10. They've got a game against Ohio State in like 3 or 4 weeks. I think they end up losing at least 3 games, even with a watered-down easy schedule. But Illinois is at number 9. Florida State moves up 4 spots to number 10. A couple of teams lost. South Carolina maybe looked a little lackadaisical, but Florida State destroys East Texas A&M, an FCS team. They cover whatever that spread is. They won by 74 points. South Carolina drops that. By the way, Florida State, I'm just not buying the passing attack. I think people are overinflating them a little bit. They beat Alabama. It's a good home win, but it's a week 1 game. I think we need to slow it a little bit on Florida State and LSU. South Carolina at number 11. Yeah, South Carolina have a major concern with their passing attack as well. They end up beating SC State. They won that game by 28 points. It was weird. There was a weather delay, but they were losing early in like the second quarter of that game against an FCS team. That's concerning. And so they moved down 1 spot. You've got Clemson moving down 4 spots. I'm surprised they didn't move down even more. They were down 16-3 against Troy. Come on. I mean, that's the thing. You go to any website, you're like, you can't escape the pop-up things or the ads. Clemson, though, I'm surprised they're not outside of the top 15. This is a team that can't run the ball. And you're losing 16-3 at the half to Troy, a game in which you're 30.5-point favorites in. They're still at number 12. If you're LSU, you'll take it. If you're LSU, you're rooting for Clemson from here on out, for sure. Because it makes that week 1 road win look better. Oklahoma at number 13 moves up 5 spots. I thought there was a chance Oklahoma could move to like number 11 or number 12, like in front of South Carolina and Clemson. Oklahoma was in a really good spot against Michigan. Michigan, very inexperienced team. Lack of weapons on the perimeter for a young quarterback starting his first road game. Oklahoma, veteran defense. And by the way, Oklahoma gave Michigan like 3 or 4 extra possessions. This game could have been like 31-10 very easily. I mean, you'll take an 11-point win, you cover the 4.5-point spread. There was a lot of money that came on Michigan, I guess, late, because I think the spread got down to 3.5, which surprised me. I had Oklahoma winning by 7. But Oklahoma, we'll see. Mateer he's got moxie. He's like a light version of Baker Mayfield. And so, but the QB runs, it's a problem. Like 19 or 20 QB runs, and he takes hits too. It's not even like he slides. I mean, that's his game when he runs. You've got dual threat QBs who are more finesse. They run out of bounds. They slide. They're more agile. Mateer is hard nose. He'll run into the defender. That could be a problem in terms of injuries when you're talking about SEC play. I think Oklahoma could beat Texas, honestly, with like the quarterback matchup. Mateer against Manning, the amount of experience Mateer has, a veteran Oklahoma defense. That'll be a good game. So we'll see with Oklahoma. I mean, they still got to beat teams like Auburn. You got to beat kind of those middle-of-the-pack SEC teams. You can't slip up against them. But they're up to number 13 now. You've got Iowa State at number 14, kind of by default. I don't think Iowa State's very good. They had like 230 yards of offense against Iowa. They win by 3 points. They're the best team right now in the Big 12, although you could make a serious argument for Texas Tech, but Texas Tech hasn't faced anyone. Iowa State, they beat Kansas State neutral site, and they beat Iowa at home. And Matt Campbell has really struggled against Iowa. So they move up 2 spots. You've got Tennessee up 7 spots. Don't know about this one. I understand the offense looks explosive with Aguirre, the new QB. You're beating an FCS team 72-17. That calls for a 7-spot increase. Maybe they thought, I mean, you saw how Syracuse looked against UConn. They struggled heavily. And that's who Tennessee beat in week 1. They beat them by 19. So I don't know about Tennessee at number 15. This seems like SEC inflation a little bit. But they're up to number 15. You've got A&M at number 16. They're up 3 spots. This is more of a team's losing, so they move up. A&M beat Utah State. They didn't cover, did they? I think they were more than 22-point favorites. They won weird score, 44-22. But A&M's got the huge game on the road against Notre Dame, so we'll see there. You've got Ole Miss up 3 spots. They beat Kentucky by 7. Solid win on the road. Early season SEC play. Austin Simmons, really young quarterback, going to turn the ball over a few times. You still get the win. Kentucky can't throw. They have very limited offense watching that game. But still, you take the win. South Florida entering the ranks at number 18. This week, South Florida faces Miami on the road. Imagine if they win that game. They'd have to be a top 5 team. They'd have to be a minimum top 10 team. But they beat Florida. So Florida's gone. Florida settled for too many field goals in the first half. Just not explosive enough on offense. I'm tempted to pick Florida, though, to beat LSU next year or next week. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but South Florida, man, and they've got this gauntlet of a schedule. Boise State, Florida, and Miami. First 3 weeks. And they crushed Boise State. They beat Florida on the road, and now they're on the road at Miami. So that'll be interesting. Alabama back up to 19. Louisiana Monroe gets destroyed 73-0. Ty Simpson looks amazing. It is a bad team you're facing for sure. Listen, Alabama, we'll see. They're still very talented. They've got a non-conference home game against Wisconsin. Noon start. A rare noon start for Alabama football. At home against Wisconsin on ABC. Yeah, Wisconsin is not good this year. Again, their offense is anemic. At number 20, it's Utah. So Utah up 5 spots, kind of by default, because some teams lost. They destroyed Cal Poly. By the way, that Utah win against UCLA looks a little bit less impressive when you look at UCLA's Week 2 situation. But we'll give it to Utah in the Big 12. You've got Utah, you've got Texas Tech, you've got Iowa State. I think Utah and Texas Tech are the 2 best teams in the Big 12 right now. I know Iowa State's in front of them in terms of the ranks, but they're just more explosive. They've got higher potential. You can see Texas Tech up 3 spots, crushed Kent State, back-to-back, 60-point games for Texas Tech, but they faced no one. Does Texas Tech face Oregon State this next week? Oregon State, I believe, is 0-2 as well. But Texas Tech, we'll see. They've got a lot of hype. It's a wide-open Big 12. They've got a chance this year to do something. You've got Indiana at 22, so Indiana up 1 spot. Kennesaw State, they won that game by 47 points. They covered the spread. Good for Indiana. Fernando Mendoza, the veteran quarterback coming over from Cal. We'll see with Indiana. I'm really not buying them this year. They've got a tougher schedule than last year. They're going to lose some games, but they're still ranked at number 22. Michigan at number 23, down 8 spots. So Michigan stays ranked. A little bit surprised by that. I don't mind it, honestly. But right now, with Michigan's current iteration, it's just such an inexperienced young quarterback with very little weapons on the outside. And so it's not a good combination. Michigan next year with Underwood after 12, 14 starts, whatever, and with potentially a transfer portal stud receiver, now you're talking. Haynes is a good young running back, the transfer from Bama. But with where they're at currently, I mean, they've got, Central Michigan, but then you've got games at Nebraska, you've got a game at USC. I don't know how USC is not ranked. Am I missing something with USC? USC is like a top 10, top 15 team. So how are they not ranked? But then they rank Auburn. I mean, yeah, Auburn had the nice road win in week 1. Of course, we were going to hear about that. That's why I wanted a Baylor to win against Auburn in week 1. It could have saved us a big headache of having Auburn ranked and then do this whole exhibition with Auburn in the SEC. And now we've got to see Missouri as well. Did Missouri and Kansas, they played last year? Do they play every year? I don't know. I wanted Kansas to win that game, but it is what it is. Missouri wins it, and now they're ranked. So those are 2 SEC teams that enter the fray. I know Auburn has a game against Oklahoma. That's a game Oklahoma's got to win. You have got to win that game if you're in the SEC and you want to be even a semi-contender. But Missouri at number 25. Arizona State, people are still ranking them after they lost to Mississippi State. That's very charitable. You've got BYU with 92. Yeah, BYU is another team you could see. Georgia Tech faces Clemson this week, so that'll decide if they get ranked. Florida with 70 votes. USC with 64 votes. TCU with 58. Mississippi State after their win again. Arizona State still got more votes than Mississippi State, even though Mississippi State beat them. It's because it's early in the season. Louisville. Yeah, Louisville's been kind of irrelevant. I just haven't seen much from them. SMU, they lost to Baylor. They still got 26 points to be ranked. Nebraska, they destroyed Akron. Nebraska, we'll see how they do at home against Michigan in a few weeks. Tulane, 9 overall votes. Can I exit out of this? Jesus. Baylor 7, even though Baylor's 1-1. UNLV, Pittsburgh, Navy, Memphis, Vanderbilt. Come on with Vanderbilt. You got to be trolling. You're trolling with Navy and Vanderbilt, but Michigan moves down 8 spots. I thought Michigan might be unranked, but I still think Michigan has definitely the talent to be a top 25 team. They're just not, they're inexperienced and they're not talented enough offensively in the skill position department to really do much this year. Texas Tech is a fun team. Utah moving up 5 spots, kind of a byproduct of other teams losing, honestly. Because that win in week 1 by Utah against UCLA, like I was saying, looks less impressive. Oklahoma moving up 5 spots. Yeah, isn't it kind of weird how Oklahoma beats Michigan? They move up 5 spots. Tennessee beats. It's not perfect comparison because these teams are ranked in different areas, but I'm surprised Tennessee moves up 7 spots. Maybe they just thought they had them ranked wrong to start the season and they're more talented. So it's like a self-correction by the AP voters. I mean, I guess that might be it. I thought Clemson would move down to like 15 or 16, honestly. To lose the game in week 1, that game was not nearly as close as the score indicated. They lost by 7 to LSU. But then LSU doesn't look very good against La Tech. LSU is still at number 3. So, look, it's early in the season. I do think people are going to start talking a lot more about Oregon just because it's 2 thorough dominations against a really good FCS team, and then it is a Power 4 team, Oklahoma State. I mean, you score 69 points in 3 quarters against Oklahoma State. That is some serious offensive firepower. And they had like 670 yards. I mean, they had the yardage to prove it. It wasn't like they got all defensive touchdowns. They did have a few defensive touchdowns. I mean, that's how you're going to score basically 70 points in 3 quarters, you know? How else are you going to score 70 points in 3 quarters? But Notre Dame will have to see. They're going to have to prove themselves against Texas A&M. I think it's a good setup for Notre Dame. Even though they've got a very young quarterback, you're at home. It's a manageable game against an SEC team. And Notre Dame needs it, because I think if Notre Dame starts 0-2, if they lose to Texas A&M, where does that leave them? Are they done? Even if they go 10-2, I guess it'll depend on if any of the teams on their schedule end up being really good and they get quality wins. And also how good Miami is. Because if Miami ends up going 12-0, it's a very quality loss for Notre Dame week 1 with a young quarterback starting his first game. So I could understand it. It'd be more acceptable. But that's really where we stand right now when it comes to the top 20. It should be a better week next week in terms of matchups. Not by a ton, but this past week was really bad. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.